I feel like I just found you.
I understand.
I don't understand, and I never will. But this is your choice. So be it.
You have made the moral choice. You are a greater man as a consequence. I still am not as great as you. If they kill you, I will kill them.
It does not end here. I will not let it happen.
It seems unfathomable that a man would go to such lengths to seize power, only to turn away from it at the last moment and willingly give up his life. Was it guilt that drew him to throw himself at the mercy of the Senate? Or was it principle? After all, if all he cared about was keeping the Republic safe from unscrupulous men, that goal had been achieved. Whatever his reasoning, after his surrender, all blame for the invasion of Rome was placed squarely at his feet. His companions and allies, and the soldiers of his legion, thus escaped condemnation and punishment. Following his execution, a time of great turmoil swept across Rome. The short but bloody civil war had exposed the fragility and the injustice of the Republic, and discontented mobs seized this opportunity to rise up and demand change. As the power of the Senate crumbled, so did the Republic. Rome fell, never again to rise as the global power that it had seemed destined to become. Shortly after his beloved Dominus was executed, Cinyros drank hemlock and took his own life. In his heart, he knew he had failed to guide his ward down the right path, and the despair weighed heavily upon him. Moreover, he had failed in his solemn oath to his old Dominus, whose death had kicked off this story. Though he never got to see his homeland again, he knew at least that he had redeemed himself in the eyes of the gods, and he was able to meet his end with his head held high, unburdened by the mistakes of his youth. Caeso left Rome with Lucia and their daughter. They traveled to Africa, as Caeso remembered the warm nights and the lush Nile Delta fondly. Here they found a place to settle and made a peaceful home for their family. Though their relationship was distant at first, their devotion to their child drew them together, and their affection for each other grew stronger through the years. To his surprise, Caeso took well to fatherhood, and soon he and Lucia had many more children. Devastated by the loss of her beloved, Callida left Rome in grief. She felt haunted by her past misdeeds, cursed to never find love and happiness again. She traveled north into Gallia, where she settled into a new life of hunting and forestry. In time, she did become happy there. She even found a new man to love, one who treated her well, who loved her for who she was, and who would never sacrifice what they had together for politics or ideals. After the death of his friend, Bestia returned to the arena once more, but he was no longer a gladiator. His new vocation was to teach Pancration, inspired by the example of his Magister Cinyros. He applied himself to this new calling with every bit of the vigor and determination that had made him a champion before. As soon as things had quieted down, Bestia traveled to Africa once more to look for his sister. He did find her and bring her home, and she lived happily there for the rest of her life. With nothing left to keep her in Rome, Deianira returned to her homelands in Scythia, where she reconnected with her family. Far from condemning her for her sister's death as she had feared, they were all overjoyed to have at least one of their daughters back. In time, Deianira built a new family in Scythia and became a revered matriarch of her tribe. She never left them again. Vitellius Scaevola left Roman politics and moved to Upper Latium with his wife Liviana, where they raised their children together in peace. Cato remained an important figure in Roman politics, grudgingly respected even by those among the population who desired change. He remained a defender of the patrician class, a shield against the pandering and opportunism of more populist voices. He himself was elected consul twice throughout his life, and his years in the position were generally favorably regarded. Cicero served one more year as consul before his retirement. In his old days, he lived a quiet life on a farm in Sicily, where he was greatly beloved by the people for his time as quaestor. He continued to write many books on politics and law. With Mithridates dead and his sons lacking his ability to rule, Pontus was soon annexed by Rome. The region never again rose to prominence. With Zenobia in charge of Musia, it became once more a peaceful part of the Roman province of Asia Minor. With her focus on trade and strong ties to the neighboring regions, her people enjoyed a period of great prosperity. Without the leadership of Damianos, the rebellion of his gladiators soon spiraled out of control, beginning what became known as the Servile War. Escaped slaves terrorized the Roman citizens throughout Thracia until the wealthy senator Crassus brutally defeated them and crucified thousands along the road towards Rome. With the death of the Pharaoh Ptolemy and Queen Cleopatra, the Ptolemaic dynasty had fallen. With Rome in the throes of revolution and collapse, a bloody war of succession immediately broke out in Egypt, with various parties claiming to be descendants of the pharaoh. Soon, as so often happens, the most brutal warlord stood as the victor on the corpse-strewn banks of the Nile. Rome was no longer in any position to resist such a man, and Egypt became a sovereign and tyrannical nation once more. With the death of Cleopatra, and under the steady guidance of Lunya, Nezarmenes once more became a peaceful and prosperous part of Africa Proconsularis, firmly aligned with Rome. As the eldest and most respected elder of the Berber tribes, Lunya became a singular figure of leadership and respect in the region. She was said to be more than 100 years old when she died. After traveling all across Africa for many years, going wherever her instincts took her, Rhea eventually returned to Memphis and to the service of Tener at the Temple of Ubasti. When her mentor passed away, Rhea naturally assumed the mantle as High Priestess of the Cat Goddess. Though the old faith was dwindling, she was greatly beloved by many, and her temple prospered, always home to many, many, many cats. With Diotyrchus once more assuming rulership of the Aedui, the tribe maintained a strong alliance with Rome, and through it, they greatly prospered. With the aid of the Aedui, Gallia slowly unified under Roman rule, and civilization soon began to creep into those lands in the form of paved roads, aqueducts, and fortified Roman towns. In his old age, did the Druid ever regret hastening the absorption and suppression of his own faith and culture? We will never know. The defeat and death of Vercingetorix had reduced the once mighty Awerni tribe to a myriad bickering chieftains. Without his vision, his charisma, and his resolve, there was no unifying figure to rally around, and no way for Gallia to resist their slow but inevitable assimilation into Rome. Perhaps if Vercingetorix had lived, some of their culture or religion might have survived in some form. But surely they must be grateful that civilization at last was brought to their lands. In this work, I have done my best to recount the history of this fascinating period, truthfully and accurately. As I have scoured the sources and spoken to many who claimed to have heard the story from someone who was there at the time, one thing that has stood out to me is the pivotal moments along the way where our story could have turned out very differently. If the Legatus had not surrendered, the Republic might not have been torn apart by civil war. And I believe Rome could have remained a major power to this day. Perhaps it seemed that the only way to save Rome was to become its first emperor. But what if the Legion had never crossed the Rubicon? I believe the conflict could have been resolved with less bloodshed. There is no doubt such a decision would have brought great personal risk to the Legatus, however, and the cost could have been great. One should always take care when and second-guessing historical figures with the benefit of hindsight. Here in the present, there will never truly be a way for you to know how you might have acted if you had lived in the past. Nor can you ever be certain how history will remember you.